Powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. All Noise Radio is an internet radio station that's fully produced by graduates of the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. From modern rock to old school hip hop, country to classical, news, talk, sports, and more. It's the noise you can't ignore. Log on to allnoiseradio.com. Fire up the station. Find out more about your favorite jocks. Get the latest CSB news and more. Plus, you can take All Noise Radio with you on the go for free. Just download the Live 365 app to your iPhone, iPod Touch, or BlackBerry and search All Noise Radio. Check out tomorrow's broadcasters today at allnoiseradio.com. Powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Sit back down and shut your trap. It's time for
Keeping It Sports with M3, right here on All Noise Radio.
Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Well, I'll need some beer.
Are you ready?
You have to ask me nicely.
Come on now, don't be bashful.
Are you ready? Are you ready for
Place for the best sports talk and news surrounding each league.
I can prove it with my usual flawless logic.
Hey man, this time we're gonna do it my way.
What's your name again?
And now, here's your host, M3, Mike Rosansky. Coming to you from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. It's time for Keeping It Sports with M3, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everything's going well for you here on this Monday, the 24th day of February, last Monday of the fastest month of the entire year. You know, between this and the month of November, it's always seemed the two fastest months of the year. You know, of course, February has the lowest amount of days in the year, but November it always seemed fast just based on when I was in school. You had so many days off during that month leading into Thanksgiving that it kind of just flew by. And now, you know, I, as someone who's been out of high school now for well over, 13 years, something like that. It seems like the school systems around me, these kids barely go to school these days. But hey, I digress there. Got plenty to talk about today. NFL stuff to talk about, as well as mix in a little bit of baseball as we continue the fallout from the Houston Astros sign stealing scandal on the way. But, of course, got to start with what was the event, what was the most talked about event moment of this entire week. We've been waiting for it for a couple of months now, and it finally happened on Saturday night from the MGM Grand Hotel in Las Vegas. The long-awaited rematch between the WBO World Heavyweight Champion Deonte Wilder and the lineal heavyweight champion, the Gypsy King, Tyson Fury. And I think, like most of you out there today, my reaction to what happened on Saturday night is, you know, kind of shock. And listen, no, I know that we go through sports history, we go through life. We all try to throw that phrase out there saying, oh my God, we're shocked that this happened, when no, in all actuality, we really weren't. We're just trying to sound like we're making the situation bigger than it was. But that outcome was not the outcome I expected to see Saturday night. Going in, I said I would not be surprised if either guy won this fight. No, Tyson Fury, clearly, when you break down things as a schematic boxer, as far as game plan, and as far as boxing know-how, is the better boxer. But Deontay Wilder is the more powerful boxer, the guy that could stand going a long fight. You also gave Wilder the advantage as far as a strength advantage, power full punch advantage. You figured that if he was going to, if this fight was going to end early, he was going to win by knockout. And if this fight went the distance, then it would be a toss-up. And you're just hoping that Tyson Fury, at his size, could survive the later rounds. But I never went into this thinking that we were going to be sitting here 48 hours after the fact and talking about a Tyson Fury victory via TKO, via his the cornerman for Deonte Wilder throwing in the towel in the seventh round. Because I watched, even though I normally don't get into it, I watched late Friday the weigh-in. And I was surprised the fact that they had a packed crowd for that. I'm like, what, people don't have better use of their time, don't have better things to do? But you had a loaded crowd in there for this weigh-in, and you see that Fury is 16 pounds heavier than his last fight back in September. And I'm thinking, well, what did he do? Well, not work out in the entire time he was, hanging out, making appearances for WWE in October and November. And you see Wilder, he comes in a little bit bigger, but he was more of a lean, fit 231. And I'm looking at Fury, I'm like, he's going to carry 273 pounds around and expect to either last the full 12 rounds or, in his words, knock the man out early. And, I thought, that was all just big talk. And I know that he changed trainers and coaches prior to this fight, but I didn't think coming into that we were going to see him win by a TKO. And what was amazing is not only he win by TKO, let's face it, he dominated this fight. Came out strong in the first round. Each man got a big shot in, mostly when it came to Fury with his left jabs, while Wilder was throwing some haymakers. And you look at these two men trading rounds of victory in the first two rounds, but once you got to the third round, you started to come to the realization like, oh, whoa, Wilder does not seem on his game time. Wilder looks like the guy that doesn't have his legs under him. Wilder looks like the guy that is not in tip-top shape compared to Tyson Fury, who's, as I said, carrying around 16 more pounds, is 16 pounds heavier than he was in his previous fight. And in the third round, you could get a clear view of how this thing was going to go. He knocks Wilder down twice in the final minute of the round. Seemed to have control every round going forward. Did have that little instance in the fifth round where he had a point deducted for a overhand punch on the top of Wilder's head. And it was weird watching this because I'm seeing that Fury is dominating this, but it seemed like every 20 to 30 seconds he's getting in a tie-up, causing the ref to step in and break this. I'm thinking, wait a minute, you have full control of this fight. Why do you keep tying the man up? Why do you keep grappling, getting him in a bear hug situation, causing the ref to back you guys each up? But as it would turn out, that was, tiring Wilder out. The fact that he's got this man that's with a 40-pound weight edge essentially on top of him, towering down on him, because he's also got about a 2-inch height advantage on him, proved to be a smart game plan, proved to be an effective game plan for Fury. And Now, eventually in the seventh round, he was just having his way, beating him down in the corner to the point where Wilder's team couldn't take it anymore and threw in the towel. And you could tell in the post-fight interview that Wilder was not exactly happy about that.
Things like this happen. The best man won tonight, but my coach, my side, threw in the towel, and I'm ready to go out on my shield, man. You know what I'm saying? I had a lot of things going on coming into this fight, but it is what it is. My leg was already weak coming in due to other little things, but I make no excuses tonight. I just wish that my corner would have let me win out on my shield. I'm a warrior, and that's what I do. You know what I'm saying? But he did what he did. There's no excuses, and we come back and be stronger.
Hey, he didn't try to make any excuses there. I know there was the part where he said that he wasn't completely ready for this fight. Not exactly sure where his whether he was saying that he wasn't ready mentally or physically, even though he's had months to prepare for this. But every fighter is going to say, yeah, I'd rather take the beating and have the refs stop it via knockout rather than my own team stop it. But hey, his team was protecting him. He had no shot. He wasn't able to protect himself in the corner. You saw Fury get 3-4 clean shots to the face in a row, and he was starting to crouch over at that point. You didn't want to get into a point where it not only affect potential future earnings, it affect his livelihood as just a person continuing on with his life. So it was probably the wise decision for Wilder's camp to make that choice to throw in the towel. Not sure if I would have done the same thing if I were in that spot. Can't say whether I would or wouldn't have. But hey, to the victor go the spoils, I guess you could say here, because Tyson Fury for months has said that he was the better fighter, thought he should have won the first fight. Probably should have, because he won most of the rounds. It was the last 2 rounds when he got knocked down a couple times that really did it, forcing the judge's decision for a draw there. And he got the bragging rights. He told us he was going to knock him out. He told us he was going to win this fight, prove that he was the undisputed world champion, show that his victory years back against Klitschko was no fluke, proved that he's a worthy fighter to take on what will likely be Anthony Joshua at some point, whether it be in the late summer, early fall. I can't see it happening sooner than that. But it was his night. He seized control in the 3rd round. There was that kind of gross moment where he did lick some blood off of Wilder's neck, it looked like, there late in the 6th round when they were tied up once again. But he had control of him. It looked like he threw him for a loop when he hit him and busted open his ear. And Wilder was never the same after. I believe it was on the shot that knocked him down in the 3rd round. But hey, congratulations to Fury. We'll see where he goes from here, where he what happens next. So, because like I said, we all expect the next fight to be against Anthony Joshua, but is there a rematch between these two? Deonte Wilder and his camp, his management group have now 30 days, actually now 28 days, take off the 2 from since Saturday, have now 28 days to make a decision on whether they want a rematch as previously stipulated in the contract. And in all likelihood, there probably will be, but Are we going to have to wait a year, depending on the time frame of when the matchup between Fury and Joshua takes place? But no, in all, I think it was actually a good night for boxing. You're not going to look at this fight and say, "Oh, it was a catch can classic." It's not going to go down in the annals of the history, the annals of the record books, as one of the great fights in history. But it captivated an audience. You had over 100 million pay-per-view buys. In that arena, you had a who's who of celebrities. I'm in between watching the action. I'm looking around the ring, and I'm able to point out different celebs that I see sitting there. Whether it be other current pro athletes, entertainers, sports personalities that I could see sitting around the ringside area. You see other boxers, current and former champions in the house. Pretty much anyone who's anyone was in the building. They all wanted to see this fight. And we've had this happen to us the last couple of years, where a boxing matchup draws the attention of America, draws us all in, but it turns into a lame duck. It turns into a embarrassing situation. Whether you want to take Mayweather-Pacquiao, and let's face it, that fight should have happened 5 years prior. Should have been like 2010. They made us wait all the way until 2015. Then you take 2017. We get what was pretty much a clown show between Mayweather and Conor McGregor. And while McGregor looked good in that early, Mayweather basically toyed with him after that. And from rounds 6 on in both of those fights, everyone's just looking around saying, "Oh, these are jokes. These aren't even entertaining. These aren't compelling." Well, this was compelling. This was entertaining. From the over-the-top ring entrances both guys had, where Fury came to the ring carried in by a king's-like throne, or Deonte Wilder coming in, out wearing the Black Panther mask and gear, to then the actual fight, which was completely different than anything we could have all expected, with Fury dominating to a level we didn't think he could, with all the questions of the weight gain. He proved all his doubters wrong and backed up his big words with the knockout. It was a compelling night. It was an interesting night, and it was a good night for a sport that, let's face it, for the last 20, 25 years has not been that compelling. Whether it be you look at, we're not getting the great compelling fights when we should. All these promoters, all these promotions being on big money grabs, being afraid to have their guy fight a certain other fighter at the right time, and the fights that we should be getting, we're getting too late. Add on to that the fact that you had this new entity come in that took over, captured the attention of most combat sports fans in America, in the MMA, and specifically UFC, where you have an owner that's made a star out of himself in Dana White, an owner that listens to his fans and doesn't just sit around, wait for these guys to become all dried up, washed up. No, he gives us the fights we want to see when he's got two guys at the top of their game. No less than 4 or 5 months later, you're seeing them on a fight night. You're seeing them on a UFC pay-per-view. You're seeing the same to a lesser extent with Bellator. taking over Friday nights on the Paramount Channel and having their tournament finales on pay-per-views, able to get the big fighters to join their promotion as well as the fact that, I was talking about this with a couple friends Saturday night. We really don't have the great heavyweights anymore. That's what always captivated America pre-1990s when it came to the boxing world. Not the light heavyweights, the welterweights, the junior heavyweights. No, it was the big guys. It was the heavyweights, the guys that were between the range of the 220 to 260 pound weight limit. I mean, Tyson Fury completely blew up the scales on that one, but you get what I'm saying here. It's always been about the heavyweights. When you hear about the big fight with them, you're always hearing, for the World Heavyweight Championship, not the middleweight championship, light heavyweight, welterweight, featherweight, flyweight, none of that. No, World Heavyweight Championship. That's what it's always been about. And whether it be with the WBO, whether it be the IBF, the WBA, and it's always been about the top prize, top weight, top guys in these promotions. I mean, no disrespect to what the likes of a Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao have done, but we've always been captivated by the big guys fighting, and we got that Saturday night. It drew all of our attentions in. Now we just hope that it continues to build from there. I mean, it's never going to be what it was back during the era of Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, George Foreman, where you had so many great fighters with fighting for that top prize, where you had a depth of talent. But at least if we get these guys the guys of today now fighting while in their prime, maybe it will start drawing people back to the TV set on a consistent basis as it was on Saturday. All right, I got a lot left to get to over the next about 40 minutes or so here. Get to some NFL stuff here, such as the proposal by the owners for the new CBA, one quarterback making a decision on his future while another kind of iffy about location. Get into some more about the sign stealing, as well as what a surprise. The season hasn't even started yet, but another injury concern for the New York Yankees. That cloud just doesn't seem to go away. But hey, I'm in a positive mood today. Got a lot I want to talk about. If you're watching on Facebook or on Periscope, thank you very much for tuning in. Remember, if you're watching live, feel free to call in. The number is on the screen at 856-330-4749. The podcast will be available later today at facebook.com/keepingitsports with M3. But hey, everyone, continue enjoying your Monday afternoon. Sit back, relax, and continue keeping it sports with M3.
I'll be back.
You know, our jobs occupy more than half our waking hours. Shouldn't we be doing something we love? Call Connecticut School of Broadcasting at 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to gocsb.com. Since 1964, Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami, has helped place thousands of grads as DJs, sportscasters, entertainment reporters, behind the scenes in audio and video production, every aspect of the broadcast media. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has trained men and women of all ages and backgrounds in a matter of months, not years.
Learn by doing from area radio and TV pros. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. Day and evening classes begin soon. Get trained. Get connected now.
Welcome back to Keeping It Sports with M3. Hope you're all enjoying your Monday afternoons. No, a lot went down actually in the NFL this week. It's becoming more and more like baseball. Their season never truly ends with all the off the field drama, all the news that breaks. You already got people making a big deal that the scouting combine is coming up on Thursday, running through next weekend. We're not going to lose any sleep on that because I don't care what a guy does in his 40 time, does as far as the bench press. We've seen so many of these guys before have these amazing scouting combines, and then it proved that they cannot play in the league. I've seen it plenty of times when it comes to the Jets. And, speaking of the Jets, there was a rumor that came out last week involving the Jets. There were rumors coming out of Cleveland, and this was brought up and talked about by many of these outlets because they had nothing better to do than waste their time on this kind of nonsense. As we all know, it was a disastrous year for the Cleveland Browns. It was not one that you're going to look back on the annals of time, write home about, and be very proud of after all of the moves they made last offseason, and everybody got a little carried away with themselves, labeling this team as a contender, not realizing that you had a group of guys put together that had never truly won anything, never been part of a winning situation, including one Mr. Odell Beckham Jr. And the rumor coming out last week is that Odell Beckham would welcome a return to New York City if he were to be traded by the Browns this offseason. Now, there's no evidence that the Cleveland Browns are looking to trade him, but as we all know, Odell likes the limelight. He likes being in the big city. He's got to be bored as hell during the season when he's in Cleveland, because I'm sure it's a nice city, but it's not it's not as widespread with the party life, the party atmosphere as places like New York, LA, Miami. His preferred destinations. And in that rumor, it was saying a return to New York, but to play for the New York Jets. It said, in quote, would welcome a return to New York, but isn't currently seeking a trade out of Cleveland. But if he isn't currently seeking a trade out of Cleveland, how does a rumor like this come out? Is it a family member of his that's telling the media, a friend? Is he sending this message through back channels? Who exactly knows? But it would be to return to New York and play for the Jets. Let me be clear. Under no circumstances, if you're the New York Jets, do you trade for Odell Beckham Jr.? Number one, you're not in a position where you are one wide receiver away from winning. You've got so many holes on this team, especially on the offensive line to fill. Got to figure out what you're doing at the corner. Got to make sure your two middle linebackers healthy this year. Still got to find a pass rusher, which I've been screaming about for about 15 years now, but I digress on that. So you're not one wide receiver away from winning and being in a spot where you can just give away draft picks to trade for a top of the line talent as far as wide receiver, but a guy who's also a knucklehead. And that gets me to point number 2 here. It's bad enough that Adam Gase seems to have some kind of vendetta against Le'Veon Bell. I mean, after the first quarter in every Jet game this year, you would think he has no idea who the guy is. With the fact that he'll get 5 carries in the first quarter and then maybe 7 through the remainder of the game. Completely getting away from the ground game. And even with as much of a down year as it was, Le'Veon Bell handled himself pretty well outside of the whole incident where he was sick, had to miss a game, and went bowling the night before. Bad look, but otherwise he's handled himself like a true pro and been nothing but a class act here. Can you imagine bringing Odell here and how him and Adam Gase would be together? I mean, he got rid of his buddy Landry in Miami, amongst others. So, Odell would be coming in and right away be looking to win a power struggle with this head coach. And number 3, what has Odell ever won? I mean, he's made the playoffs one time, and in that game had 5 drops after him and most of the team went on that boat trip down in Miami the week before. Come on. Odell Beckham, as talented as he is, he's a numbskull to deal with, and he's never won a damn thing. He's the biggest diva we got going in this league right now. So, if I'm the Jets, just stay the hell away. Please, no need to add more agita onto what is already a stressful situation being a Jets fan. No, Saints fans won't have a lot of stress knowing that Drew Brees is going to come back next year. I announced that on Instagram late last week that he's going to come back for what will be his 20th season in the league. It was either retirement or play for the Saints with Brees. He'll give it another go. Why not with the weapons that he's got there and hasn't shown any signs of decline. That's just now the first piece to drop in what's going to be an interesting offseason when it comes to the coaching, the quarterback carousel, if I can get that out proper. Of course, every day it's Tom Brady watch, but you also got to see where the likes of Teddy Bridgewater ends up. He deserves to get a starting job. Is Tannehill going to be back in Tennessee? A lot of that all depends on if they sign Brady. Cam Newton, Phillip Rivers, Jameis Winston. So many guys out there that are going to affect this league next year that could be starters in this league and affect what teams do in the draft. And it's funny when it comes to the draft that this story seems to get louder and louder about Joe Burrow's potentially pulling an Eli Manning and trying to force his way out of playing for the Cincinnati Bengals before he even gets drafted. And you're seeing him in interviews, non-committal, talking about how while they have power in the situation, he does have a leg to stand on in this all as well. Doesn't exactly provide a lot of positive inspiration, positive thought for Bengals fans who are hoping that their team drafts the home state kid. And I got to say, if the Bengals if the Bengals decide that, we're going to be bullied around by this kid who, as good as he was last year, has had one great year in college, they might as well pack things up and move on. I'm serious. If they get forced to trade this draft pick, do not draft Joe Burrows with the first overall pick, you can begin the clock as far as the Cincinnati Bengals moving out of Cincinnati and moving on to a new location. I mean, they have been a dumpster fire the last couple of years. Almost pulled off the donut last year, if not for my New York Jets. You look, they are bereft of talent right now, have nothing to really be positive of, nothing that you can look at and say, yeah, we feel good about that going into our future. And add in the fact that the fan base is miserable, that they are getting a poor showing at these games. Drafting the home state guy, the Heisman winner, the college football national champion, that would provide new life into that team, that fan base. But if you take that away, that they're not going to have any reason to be positive, any reason to support this organization. An organization, let's face it, that's been run horribly over the last 2 decades, that has a cheap as hell owner, doesn't pay any of his big stars, kept around Marvin Lewis way too long. And yeah, he won a lot of regular season games there, but couldn't get it done in the postseason, even when they had deep, talented rosters there. And had always been the team that was most associated with the guys that were likely going to get suspended for off-the-field conduct. So it's not a good look if now you're the Bengals and you add on to it that, hey, this kid doesn't want to play here, so we're going to trade the draft pick and not even try to be good. But, hey, we still got about 2 months until the draft, April 23rd. We'll see what happens, see if there can be some kind of resolution to this and you can keep the Bengals in Cincinnati for the long term. Because I'm telling you, they trade that pick within the next decade, they're going to move out of Cincinnati, and you can just look around. There are plenty of cities around this country, or even to our neighbors to the north, that would love to have an NFL franchise. Going to take another break here, come back on the other side, get back to the story that seems to never go away, the sign stealing scandal, and new angle to it that came out this week. Continue keeping it sports with M3.
I'll be back.
It's been 48 years Connecticut School of Broadcasting has helped place thousands of people, just like you, in exciting careers in radio, television, and the new media. At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, our hands-on approach is different. It's designed to have you spend less time in the classroom and more time in the studios. From the first day, you'll work with state-of-the-art equipment. Learn by doing from our team of industry professionals who come from their studios to ours. The best part about it, you'll learn it all in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. So do what I did. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO. Step into the fast-paced world of the broadcast media. Day and evening classes begin soon. Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Get trained and get connected now. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com.
Welcome back to Keeping It Sports with M3. Hope you're all enjoying your Monday afternoon. And no, it's very very good time in the world of sports with the fact that baseball is back in our lives. Spring training games getting underway this weekend. And listen, I know I've referred to it before as both this and the NFL preseason as the non-alcoholic beer portion of our sports fandom. And there's not a lot to take out of spring training games other than watching the guys playing games, get ready for the real grind, the real season, the 162 game marathon. But you get to see young players, you get to see prospects, a bit of your future, as well as seeing your stars get ready for the game. I will say this, you have guys battling for roster spots, whether it be that fifth starter spot or whether it be a spot in the bullpen, last spot on the bench. But please, do not be sucked in by spring training. Do not look at it and say, oh, wow, this guy, this guy's going to be a stud. He had a dominant spring training. He's going to be awesome. I was suckered in like that back, 3 years ago when Greg Bird had 9 home runs in spring training, and what happened? His career fell apart after that through injuries, and has pretty much became a non-factor for the Yankees after that. And then you have cases where a guy has the worst spring training in the world, and you say, oh, get rid of this guy, he's garbage. I fell into that trap back in 2012 when Raul Ibanez went 4 for 41 in spring training, and I'm texting all my buddies that last week of spring training saying, they got to release this guy. He's done. He's washed up. He can't play anymore. Goes out and has 19 jacks for the team and had that big moment in the postseason where he pinch hits for A-Rod, game-tying home run against Jim Johnson in the 9th inning, walk-off home run against Brian Mattis in the 12th inning, both times on the first pitch. So can't take what you see in spring training too seriously, whether it's a veteran, a young player. It's the regular season that truly matters. Now, what you hope to happen is that your guys get through it safe and sound. I said this to my family the other day. I don't care if the Yankees go 0 for spring training. Just have the entire 26-man roster healthy on March 26th, and then we're good. We're ready to go. Well, that black cloud from 2019 continues to follow this team around, continues to hang over them as we have some injuries to be worried about, whether it be, James Paxton having a back surgery in early February. He's not going to be out. He's not going to be back until late May, early June. Then you have the concern of Aaron Judge and dealing with some soreness in his throwing shoulder last week. And that's turned out to be not so a big deal because he was playing catch the next day. But still, it's a concern because Judge has had injuries that took apart parts of his season the last 2 years. Will it be getting hit on the wrist, knocking out 2 months of his season in 2018? Or last year, pulling an oblique and missing close to 2 months? These things have, unfortunately, happened to Aaron Judge, have followed him around, and as big as he is, as talented as he is, and as much power as he has had the tendency the last couple of years to be a bit fragile. So you've had to deal with that. But the last thing I needed to hear, or I wanted to hear, was the news that came out about Luis Severino. The fact that he's flown back to he flew back to New York on Friday to have the doctors check him out today because he's feeling soreness in his pitching forearm when he throws his changeup on the outside portion of his forearm. I mean, this guy's season was completely wiped away. We didn't last year after what seemed like it was just going to be a 6-week injury before his first spring training start last year. We ended up not seeing him until September. He made 4 starts, a couple appearances in the postseason. Really didn't get to have a full year after signing that contract extension there. And now he's dealing with this again. And, anytime you hear about the forearm, you hear about the forearm up to the elbow, there's concern with a pitcher. And why wouldn't there be? It seems like it's a rite of passage for these guys to have these arm injuries. But so far, I have not heard or read any updates on what is the doctor's prognosis on Severino. I'm obviously hoping for the best, but now with this injury, pile that on top of Paxton not being available for the first 2 months of the season, you're really digging deep into your rotation depth there. And thank God they signed Garrett Cole. Still got Tanaka, who it's amazing to me that of all the injuries the Yankees had last year, a record 30 players spending time on the injured list. There were 10 players on the Yankees, 3 position players, 7 pitchers that never spent 1 second on the IL last year, and one of them was Masahiro Tanaka. If you told me 30 guys prior to last year, told me 30 people spent time on the AL, I would have told you, A, the Yankees are going to lose 90 games, and B, Masahiro Tanaka will most certainly be one of those guys. I would have lost a lot of money on both of those counts, both of those bets there, because of how he's continuing to deal with the partially torn UCL and has surprisingly survived that these last several years. But there's only so many times you can go to the well. There's only so many times you can say, oh, next man up. Last year, everything went right when it came to the next man up. Gio Urshela, we knew he could field, comes out of nowhere and has a great offensive season and over 850 OPS for this team. Mix him with his amazing glove at third, filling in for Miguel Andujar. They lose pretty much everyone in their outfield not named Brett Gardner, bringing Cameron Maybin, who was in the Cleveland Indians minor league, bring him in for just, $40,000 paid to the Indians, and he turned out to be a very useful piece for them. They had an amazing record with the opener, which hopefully we don't have to see that again this year, and dealt with an entire year of almost of no Dylan Patantas, Severino for only 4 starts in September. Giancarlo Stanton played only 18 games. You had Judge's injury at the end of April, didn't come back till mid-June. I mean, all over the map. The only 3 position players that didn't spend time on the IL, now that I'm looking at the list here, were LeMahieu, Austin Romine, and Gleyber Torres. Everybody seemingly dealt with something last year. And as I said, there's only so many times, especially with your pitching staff, you could say next man up. I mean, I was actually glad they didn't trade J. Happ this offseason because that allowed Montgomery to come into the year with, after an actual real offseason, not having to press, not having to worry about being one of the 5 guys to count on, could get some reps in AAA and be ready to be the next man up for that inevitable injury to either Paxton or Tanaka. But I didn't want to see the Yankees digging into the depth early. I wanted their young pitchers, Montgomery, Schmidt, King, Garcia, all of them to just kind of ease into this year, rather than now them all have to ramp it up and compete for a 5th starter spot here, with the fact that you have, as of right now, you look at the Yankee rotation, it's Cole, Tanaka, Happ is your third starter when you expect him to be your 5. Montgomery, and then either a bunch of kids competing for the 5 spot or the obnoxiousness that is the opener going once every 5 days. So now, not what you want to hear this early in spring training. As I said, you don't want to keep going to the well when it comes to these injuries. And you just feel bad for Luis Severino. He's, I don't care if you're a Yankee fan or not. The guy was an all-star in 17 and 18. And off the field seems to handle himself pretty well. Seems to be a pretty good guy by all accounts. And as he said the other day, all I want to do is pitch. And last year was taken away from him for the most part. And now this year has already gotten off to a bad start for him, with him already having to deal with some injury. And still have no updates on that. If I get something before the end of the show, I'll let you all know. But not a good way for Severino or the Yankees to begin spring training. All right, going to take another break here, come back and get to the NFL CBA, as well as another story when it comes to the Astros sign-stealing scandal that is cropped up in the last week. Continue keeping it sports with M3.
I'll be back.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting founder Dick Robinson.
You know, the media business has changed a lot since we opened our doors in 1964. Now media content is everywhere, on air, online, on the go. More than ever, companies are looking for people to help drive this new media.
At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, you'll get hands-on training on the latest software and equipment in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has placed thousands of grads in broadcast media careers.
It's all about versatility. You see, at a radio station, if you also know how to shoot, edit, and post videos, you become a pretty hot commodity. That's the training you get at Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with locations up and down the East Coast, from Massachusetts to Miami. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Connecticut School of Broadcasting, the nation's oldest and largest group of broadcast media schools, redefining training in radio, TV, and new media. Get trained. Get connected. 1-800-TV-RADIO.
All right, welcome back to Keeping Sports with M3. A couple minutes left here, but a few more things I wanted to get to, including I've seen over the last couple weeks the NFL and the NFLPA have been negotiating for their next CBA, which it comes up at the end of next season, I believe. So I think it's when the new calendar year starts in March of 2021 that the CBA comes up. And I've seen I've read through, I've seen a lot of the things that are put on the table by the owners, that the players have obviously a vesting interest in, whether it be when it comes to pension, healthcare, off-season workouts, training camp workouts, preseason games. But the two big sticking points here that have instantly jumped off the page to me are an increase in the postseason as the regular season, and a third thing, actually, the revenue split. Number one, we've seen that they've put out there an increase for instead of 6 teams, 7 teams from each conference make the postseason. I know maybe I might sound like a hypocrite because, what was it, 2 weeks ago I was complaining about how baseball was talking about going to 7 games in the postseason in each league. But in the NFL, I got no problem with it. You would have it where the number one overall seed in each conference gets a bye, 2 plays 7, 3 plays 6, 4 plays 5 in the wild card round, meaning 6 games that weekend, 3 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, nonstop smorgasbord of football. The only concern I would have is the fact that now, instead of 12 teams, you would have 14 of your 32 teams making the postseason. At what point does it become too much where you're diluting the product and the value of the regular season? At what point does the financial gain of it, and that's all it's about. It's about getting one more game on Saturday and Sunday for that weekend. Instead of 4 games, 6 games, and getting more money from television, getting more money by people coming to the game when it comes to tickets, alcohol, merchandise, everything involved. That's all it's about here. I could say it's about getting more teams in, but it's about them getting more money. At what point does the financial value of it no longer outweigh any potential negative it could have for the on the field play? That's always my concern with it, but I honestly have no problem with adding one team to each league. What I do have a problem with are the other 2 things. A, increasing the regular season. And they would increase the regular season from 16 to 17 games, lessen the preseason from 4 to 3 preseason games. And each team would play their 8 home games, 8 road games, and 1 neutral site game, which wouldn't necessarily mean everybody going playing in London. You'd see situations like playing in Mexico City, maybe a game in Canada, games in cities around this country that don't have an NFL team and aren't big-time college football hotspots. But I look at and the revenue comes into split here. When it comes to staying at a 16-game schedule, the owners have only offered the players an increase from 47% of the revenue sharing to 48%, meaning that 48 of the entire revenue sharing, the owners would get 52%, and the other 48% would be divided amongst the teams, and that's how you determine your salary cap. Or if there's a 17th game, they would increase the revenue sharing only up to 48.5% to be divided amongst the teams. And for that 17th game, every player would be paid a maximum of $250,000. So it wouldn't be, another week's paycheck at the same weekly value. No. Everybody would be capped at $250,000, and while that's good for the guys that's on the league minimum contract, the non-guaranteed contract, to maybe get paid twice what he's getting paid normally during the regular season, you're kind of screwing over the guys that are making the big bucks, the stars. So you're looking at and I know you're saying, these guys are all millionaires. But you're looking at, one of the top quarterbacks in the league who might be making $30 million a year normally. Or say we'll jump it up to $32 million a year normally. And they're making $2 million per week. But then telling them, week 17, we're only paying you $250,000. And how's that fair? How does that work out where all of a sudden you're taking a pay cut of somewhere around to 85% there going into the final week? Tell me how that actually makes sense there. If I'm the players, I fight like hell to make sure there's not this 17th game, because the owners can talk out of their rear ends about how, we're all about player safety, yet they want to add this 17th game. Tell them, hell no. You've tried to do stuff in your own mind to add to player safety, but now you want to add another game onto the mix here? That doesn't make sense. And you're going to potentially decrease my pay for that 17th game? And if you really want to be fair about this, it should be a 50-50 split. Hell, the players should be making more of the money. All of these guys are all of these owners are billionaires anyway, and these players' careers, their average playing career is about 4 years. Hell, some of them have to retire early because of the wear and tear, the injuries, the pain that they deal with. Every time these guys step on the field, they come off a lesser person than they were beforehand. So, to me, if I'm the players, I tell them, hell no to 17 games. And also, we want a 50-50 split. Because the people, they come to their I said this last week, they come to the TV set to watch the players. They go to the games to watch the players, not to watch, the jackass owners like the Johnsons, Jerry Jones, John Mara, Robert Kraft, amongst the other scumbaggish owners in this league, sit in their fancy boxes, making all the money, all the financial gain on what these guys are doing out there. They are what we root for. The team logo on the front and the name on the back. That's what we root for. Not the billionaire owners who have had a silver spoon in their mouth since the time they could realize life. Give me a damn break on this one. Final thing I want to talk about today, and I've never been one to run from a topic, whether it's controversial or not, no matter how the topic may look on the surface. But this topic was brought to my attention last week by a friend of mine who happens to be a New York Mets fan. I'm not going to give him out his name on here because A, I don't want to embarrass him, and B, he kind of comes off as a bit of a dope for making this a big story or thinking that there's legs to this. But as we all know, there's been the biggest story in baseball. It's clouded over this offseason since mid-January and on into spring training, especially with the anger that these players have expressed around the league. The fact that the Astros players did not get punished for the sign-stealing scandal. And you've heard more comments this week from the likes of Aaron Judge, who talked about saying how they cheated, saying the championship doesn't hold any value. Giancarlo Stanton saying that if he knew what was coming in 2017, he would have hit 80-plus home runs. Things like that. You're seeing the stars of the league, who are normally as vanilla characters as you can find, coming out with strong, harsh criticism on all of these players. Hell, you're even seeing the likes. You're seeing former players come out with comments, including the likes of David Ortiz, who's calling Mike Fiers a snitch. And talk about a hypocrite there. Him calling Mike Fiers a snitch when David Ortiz played in the glory years of the steroid era, and as we all know, has been given the biggest pardon in the history of baseball when it comes to his failed PED test from that random survey in 2003. They've come out in nothing but support of him and thrown all the rest of the guys under the bus. Maybe Ortiz should shut his mouth and just take the L on this one and back the hell off. But there's been a video that has surfaced over this last week from a segment on MLB Network that took place last October, talking about sign stealing, talking about the paranoia that teams have when it comes to sign stealing. And this video is a segment that takes place on that in-studio field that MLB Network has, and in it you see host Brian Kenny along with analysts Al Leiter, and at the time and now current Phillies manager Joe Girardi. And they're talking about the art of sign stealing, the paranoia the teams have that the other team may be stealing their signs. And this audio was posted on social media by a Twitter account. I'm drawing in a blank on the Twitter account's name right now. As far as Joe Girardi's comments in this video, I just wanted to play you guys a short sampling of this real quick.
You know, some teams might turn their back. Who knows?
So what did you guys use?
Right. Yeah. So you got to worry about it. And sometimes you got to worry about just how it's being relayed. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I was part of a system where it came from upstairs to someone in the dugout to the guy on second base. And we eventually caught it.
Now, this video, this clip, has gone around social media. It was originally posted by a Twitter account of a Houston Astros fan. What a surprise. Posting it around, thinking in his mind that the Yankees cheated. That's what he's attributing this to, because it's Joe Girardi making the comments. He's in the video with another former Yankee in Al Leiter, and they're talking all about in this the potential paranoia of sign stealing. And you listen to some of those comments there, whether it be we had a system coming from upstairs, or at the end when he talks about it getting down from the dugout out to second base, and eventually we caught it. And as I've put it, the butthurt Houston Astros, Boston Red Sox fans out there have tried to make this out to be a situation of, hey, why are we the only ones that are getting frowned upon here? Trying to make this into a situation where, in their minds, the Yankees cheated as well. Well, a couple things here. Allow me to educate all of you on this direct situation. Number one, as I said, the video that's out there was posted by a Houston Astros fan. So, obviously, I take that as a guy that is looking for his 15 minutes of fame. He also posts the video, takes the video of what it looks like he's using his phone recording what's going on TV, and captures only about 24 seconds in this entire clip. He records only the part that can be construed as controversial, rather than capturing the full segment, rather than capturing the full thing, so that myself and everyone else can make full judgment into this, as we all did when it came to the Houston Astros thing. Now, everyone wasn't just jumping out there saying, oh, the Astros cheated when the Athletic article came out back in November, because if Mike Fiers was proven wrong, he'd have egg on his face, and we'd all look like a bunch of idiots for jumping to accusation there. As the old saying goes, innocent until proven guilty. Even though in our society these days, you wouldn't realize this. So I said, all right, I need to see full clip. I need to see what was said before that and what was said after that to get a true context of this situation. So someone was able to post on social media the full 7-minute clip, and here was what Joe Girardi said after that spot on MLB Network.
The first thing that I look at, what I try to watch is I always watch the base runners, watch the coaches. I have someone watch the coaches and base runners. The other thing is you watch the swings. If you see something where they're on everything, you got to say, hey, something's up. The pitcher's either tipping or someone's relaying. There's been accusations that comes from cameras in the outfield. You know, there's those 3 cameras, and sometimes one's the home feed and sometimes one's the road feed. And you got to worry about that, right? So you got to worry about.
He goes on to talk about how he was watching for signs. Watching for the other team stealing his signs. As I took some notes throughout this, watching this full clip, you clearly look at that back wall and it says sign stealing paranoia. And they were talking about both the art of stealing signs as well as being fearful of the other team stealing your signs. And he would go on there to acknowledge that, no, all across the league, you have teams with their analytical departments that are watching film after the game, watching film from previous games for future opponents, seeing if they could pick up on anything. But no one in his time was doing it in real time like the Houston Astros. The Houston Astros, I actually differ what the Houston Astros and the Red Sox were doing. The Houston Astros had a camera in their home ballpark locked in on the catcher and were stealing the signs up close in real time and relaying them from their dugout to the hitter. So the hitter knew, oh, hey, if a breaking ball is coming, or if, hey, a fastball is coming, know what to take a hack at and what to lay off on. In this, what Girardi is explaining sounds like that, and I got another clip that will make it more clear to you here. Let's play this right here.
But guess what? What about in the dugout between video room and all sorts of things, and your whole baseball ops department could be studying stuff and getting something out there? I'd be doing it.
Right.
Of course I'd be doing
because aren't you looking for every advantage to win? Right now, it's even more important.
So that's okay? That's not okay?
As long as they're not relaying it during the game. If they come up with something...
Instantaneously.
Yeah, well...
Of course.
But here, but I know we could talk about this for 30 minutes. But what the Yankees did, nobody on base, which I saw with the guys back in the day. Multiple signs.
Yeah. So they were explaining paranoia from the Yankees case as far as stealing signs. Listen, there's a lot about this you can pick apart, whether it be when Girardi, in the initial clip I played for you, Girardi, I felt was very vague in whether he was talking about being as a player or a coach. He didn't exactly say what team he did this with as well. And I also love to know, what does he mean they got it from upstairs? Was someone from upstairs, would it be a scout, someone watching from up in like the press box or somewhere in the stadium, and then phone down to the dugout during the game saying, hey, I'm picking up on this, that the pitcher's tipping. You might want to look into that. If that's the case, that is kind of pushing the limits there. But to me, that sounds like nothing like what the Houston Astros are doing, as well as, I look at the Red Sox spot, and I don't even think what the Red Sox were doing was so bad. Their video room was watching the game, and they were able to pick stuff, and they were calling down to the dugout. Now, was it the wrong use of the video phone and as well? Yeah, but they were probably just saying, hey, look for this, and give out this sign when you get to second base, not letting hitters know in real time what was actually coming here. But I watched the full video, saw full context of this whole thing, and in the end, yes, teams around the league are watching film, looking at things, looking for any edge in analytics departments, in video. To me, all the technology should not be involved in the dugout during the game, whether it be the iPad or allowing players or player personnel to go down to the video room during the game. That all stuff should be closed out. But no one was doing anything to the level of what the Astros were doing. No one was going out of their way to emphatically cheat like the Houston Astros were doing, whether it be the banging on the trash can or if they were wearing some electronic device. What this all, to me, comes off as, I said it before, it's a bunch of butthurt Houston Astro, Boston Red Sox, and for some reason, New York Met fans about this whole spot. And I don't even get the Met fans' upsetness with all this. What is it about Carlos Beltran getting fired before even managing a game? Big deal. You guys hated him when he was a player for the most part. Most of you couldn't wait to get rid of them. You did nothing wrong in all of this. You just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. But like most Met fans, they have too big a concern when it comes to the New York Yankees and always think that they're doing something scandalous, something illegal. Listen, I'm not going to run and hide. The Yankees had a bunch of guys during the steroid era, whether it be Clemens, whether it be A-Rod. There were probably Andy Pettitte took HGH near the end of his tenure with the Yankees. But they weren't the only guys doing that. They weren't the only guys in the game that were doing that. But they get labeled as the only ones doing it because they won 4 world titles in the end of the 90s and had a couple of guys on there come up on the Mitchell Report. And they had A-Rod, who was a main cog in their 2009 championship and got caught once with the 03 list and got busted as well with the biogenesis that took a year away from his career. But let's not act like nobody else was doing it around the league. As I said, David Ortiz gets a free pass. Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, all of them, you name it. Those guys were destroying the record books. Those guys were doing it for personal gain. Here, you had a team that was going from the top of the office on down to the players that was formed a system that was flat out cheating, had a camera in their home ballpark and an in ballpark advantage that the other team did not have. They knew what pitches were coming when they were coming in real time. It's one thing, I'll keep saying it, it's one thing if you're standing on the top step of the dugout and you could pick something up, or you're on second base, you could pick something up and you're able to relay it to your guy. Hell, I don't like it, but if you're in the video room and your video guy picks something up and they call down to the dugout in between innings and say, hey, you might want to look at this, look for that going forward. That's pushing it. But even that, I have no problem with it. And that's what it sounds like the Red Sox were doing. That, to me, sounds like a little bit of gamesmanship. But no one was doing this to the level of the Houston Astros fans. So Astro fans, Astro players, take your medicine, take your lack of punishment, and move on. Show some humility and realize that while everyone signed steals, no one was cheating like you were, and your championship, because of that, will forever be tainted. And that, my friends, is Keeping It Sports with M3 from Monday, February 24th, 2020. Everyone have a great night, and I'll talk to you guys again same time next week. Peace.
We have to go. Good night, everybody.
I have had enough of you.
Thank you for all the fun. Thank you. Hey, shut up, will ya?
I don't want to see you, I don't want to hear you, and I don't want to smell you. Now leave. I'll be back.